So, okay, like let's put this in concrete terms. Say that the video game Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out, right? Hotly anticipated. And they just print so many copies of this Blu-ray game over there in Korea or wherever they make games. I'm just assuming it's probably in Asia somewhere. They send them over, but there's too many. People don't want a game that much. There's too many, and so they just have to shut down production over there in Korea because there's just too many copies of Cyberpunk 2077 on American shelves.
Yes. Absolutely. And so, but when that happens, what happens next? So it's not just then that, okay, we shut down, fine. Now you can sell out of these games and no one ever has to hear about it again.
Yeah.
Which is something that I recommend in the case of Cyberpunk 2020, whatever.
Yeah.
But also that firm that has to shut down, what are the cascading effects from them shutting down? Well, that firm is probably going to have to lay people off, or that firm is going to, they're going to halt production on other things to try to like squeeze profits from other places and try to save, their firm from going bankrupt because they've stopped production, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things kind of like start, maybe there is a firm that they get packaging from in order to package the game. Now that firm has to shut down their production because the game production firm doesn't need the packaging anymore, right? And they go through the same thing. And maybe that packaging firm gets more raw materials from a different firm that supplies the plastic, or et cetera, et cetera. You can see, right?
Yeah, my now the DVD cover firm that I run has to make snuff film covers instead of our usual Cyberpunk 2077 fare.
So this actually did happen prior to the pandemic. This happened across a bunch of industries. Namely auto industry, actually, throughout Europe, there was a bit of an overproduction of cars. And so there was a big halting of manufacturing, which, by the way, that has led to some of the price hikes that we're starting to see in cars right now. So it's not just the shift in demand that happened. There's some other things that happened prior to the pandemic. But we also saw this with, like a bunch of tool companies in Germany. Or in China, there was a bunch of like industrial growth. Like there was like a sharp reduction in industrial growth in China right before Wuhan ultravirus, and raw material exports like got cut really big. So what you're seeing then is a bunch of kind of like ramifications from all this like stopping and starting. Right.
Yeah, because we went from basically some rather uncertain economic ground right into the pandemic, and then I think a lot of that, like the actual like priors to the pandemic, are sort of blamed on coronavirus when actually that just compounded problems that already existed and, of course, created new ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this in one of our like first episodes on COVID. I don't even remember. I think we were even talking with Alex Skaggs about stuff, but we were talking about how most of the West, like Germany, Italy, even some parts of the US, possibly Japan, South Africa, Argentina, were like already facing recessions, like already staring down the possibility of a recession this was like in December or January 2019 or 2020. So then you have what the pandemic hits, and that adds a whole nother layer to a possible kind of crisis of overproduction that a bunch of the big manufacturing hubs were looking at and big states were looking at.
Yes, that's why they planned it in the first place.
Jeffrey Epstein.